Next we got the Thomas test. Holly, I'm gonna work it on you. This is gonna be testing out a few things. So it's gonna be testing out your tightness in through your TFL and your kind of lateral hip flexors, that entire kind of lateral hip capsule actually. It's also gonna be testing really tight quads and really tight hip flexors. So here it is, your butt is to the edge of the box and then lie back down. You'll bring your right knee into your chest, and then for you, that's all you think about is just take an inhale, creating space in through your hips, and on your exhale, maybe even bringing your knee in a little bit tighter. And then now here's the test. I want to notice, is this knee totally in line with the hip, or does it drop out? If it drops out to the side, then we know that this entire lateral hip capsule is shortened and crunched forward, and that's bringing the knee out. Now that's really important for you to know, because if the knee does flare out, well then you know that the movement pattern of the knee is kind of always out as opposed to underneath your hip, which is going to be pretty horrible when you're running. Let's say if you're running and you can't help but kind of run with your knee out, you're setting your knee up for some pretty big problems. So I'm here. The test is the tool is the test. So Holly, I just want you to breathe, all right? I'm going to internally rotate your hip, which means I take the knee, I corkscrew it in. How's that feel? You feeling okay? Mm-hmm. From there, I'm going to focus just on the quad. I'm going to take an inhale. And on your exhale, I'm going to start to bring this heel in close to the box. Take an inhale again. And exhale. Now I'm bringing the knee down, I'm bringing the heel in close to the box. And now, Holly, this isn't that fiery, is it for you? Uh-huh. Too bad. No, not too bad, right? And then let's go ahead and test out the other side. I can tell it's not too bad because obviously it's easy for me to move you, right? If I was here and I go like this and I'm like, uh-oh, this is gonna be a hard one. Take an inhale for me. And then on the exhale, I bring it in, I bring it down, I internally rotate it. This side's just a tiny bit tighter. Right in through here. And that's your Thomas test. So again, bringing the other knee into your chest, let it flare out. The two things that we're testing, and a buddy's gonna need to do this for you, is does the knee flare out of the hip? If it does, we got a tight lateral hip capsule. What we also wanna test is does the knee drop, or is it right in through here? If it does not drop, well then we know that the quads are super tight, that the hip flexors are tight, that rectus femoris is going to be super tight, as well as that lateral, you okay? Is it a little tickling? Yes. Oh, so tight. So super tight hip flexors, tight rectus femoris, tight vastus lateralis, and probably a little bit of a tight adductors going on there. All right, that's the Thomas test. Get at it. Ideally, down dog is supposed to exemplify symmetry, that there is even parts activation in through the shoulder girdle as it is in through the hips. However, I find that some people have a difficult time with that because their hamstrings aren't flexible enough. So you're going to grab onto a resistance band, loop it up in through the rig, and then bring it underneath, and then you're going to bring it like it's a seat belt right across your, right where your belt would go. From there, you're just going to allow yourself to go forward. And then I walk my hands out into a down dog. You'll immediately find that the resistance band is lifting in through your hips, so you find that stretch in through your hamstrings. And it's also evening out your down dog. So there's not as much pressure in through the wrists, not as much pressure in through the shoulders, but it's allowing me the space and the freedom to really feel like what a down dog should feel. I can shift in through here, I can press my heels down, I can come up to my tippy toes and then press them down. I can elongate my stance, shift the butt up into the air a little bit more, and then finally you'll bring your elbows down so it turns into a dolphin pose. As I bring myself here, I can stretch in through my shoulders, in through my triceps, in through my lats, and then still work on this position of hips up and back. You'll find your psoas. You'll place the knot out directly on that psoas. And you know you're in the right spot because, whew, it's nauseating. I'm not lying to you guys. This one is not a pretty one. It is not for the faint of heart, but it is definitely for those who need it. It provides a lot of relief. So if you can bear with the pain, put a smile on, and breathe through it, we're gonna be okay. Take an inhale and imagine that your oxygen fills up to create compression against the knot out, against the psoas. You're pushing against the psoas, and then exhale. See if you can't soften into it. My elbows are down, my shoulders are up, so I'm in a sphinx pose. So I have a little bit of elevation. What that's going to do is add a little bit of pressure on the psoas, so I get that last little extra kind of mashing. But what it's also going to do is set up awesome posture. So my shoulders are rolled down. I imagine that my hips press into the floor, and then I can knead side to side into that psoas and work obliquely. That kind of means working in from the side. I like to think about it that you have to trick the psoas, right? So you want to see if you can get in from different angles, different directionalities into that tenderloin. Once I find it and I'm breathing in through there, holding it, pushing against the psoas, softening against the psoas. After you're there for a moment, I'm going to grab onto a band and I'm going to loop it behind my foot. From there, I'm going to bring it through, and then now I can kind of manipulate the psoas via external and internal rotation of my leg. So as I externally and internally rotate, the psoas kind of clicks over the knot out, and I can find a little bit extra. Now, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to talk doing this, so bear with me for 3 breaths. I bring the heel in as close to my butt as I can manage. Woo! Inhale. Exhale, soften. About 2.5 minutes each side. You can always kind of counter it with a little child's pose in between, but then you'll come on out, you'll reach down, you'll try to touch your toes. You'll see if you can reach down and watch this. My left fingertips, it has a whole lot easier time touching the floor than my right does. If I get to the bottom of a squat, I find, oh my God, the ability for my hip to drop into my left hip is so much more than the right side. And if you experience back pain, notice that a lot of times if you work on inflammation from the front, you can affect the kind of referred pain in the back. All right, 2 minutes each side. Have fun with it. That was a good angle.